NBC Sports, Laffit Pincay with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. He was the host of the coverage on Saturday at the Travers Stakes. And Laffit, when you joined us live on Friday from Saratoga Racecourse, between the three of us, we had a hard time coming up with an idea or a way that American Pharoah would lose. He ended up losing. Laffit, why did he lose?
Race shape in the end. Bob Baffert indicating he didn't think he brought his A game, and while that sounds like a lot of excuses, you know, you go back to the mystique of Saratoga, funky, weird things happen here. And when you go back to what happened an hour before the race, the outcome of the Travers may, to a certain extent, have been decided when Frosted's scheduled jockey, Joel Rosario, was in a spill. Injured his lower back. He's taken to Albany Hospital and couldn't ride the remainder of the afternoon. So now Kieran McLaughlin puts Jose Lezcano on Frosted, and Lezcano's just a different kind of rider. He's a lot more aggressive. My guess is that Rosario would have taken Frosted off the pace. Lezcano was a lot more aggressive. Kieran McLaughlin has since said those were not the instructions. So he took it upon himself to apply some pressure to American Pharoah. While they didn't go necessarily that fast, it's still pressure. American Pharoah still had to fight a little bit early on, asked to run a little bit faster earlier in the race than he normally would have, and I think that softened him up just enough for Keen Ice, who ran a hell of a race, by the way, to gun him down late.
Laffit, we've heard Victor Espinoza kind of hint to the fact that he thought, you know, Frosted kind of ran almost a dirty race.
Not dirty. He was race-ridden. We didn't see an inquiry, and there wasn't a reason for one, but Frosted and Jose Lezcano simply made it more difficult on Victor Espinoza. And it's not like he was on some suicide mission, Frosted. He did run third. If he finishes last, defeated 50 lengths, then, okay, he was out there for one reason, and that was to hook American Pharoah early on. That wasn't the case. I think Lezcano sensed a slower pace, wasn't going to let American Pharoah go out there and just dictate things as he has in his last several races, turned up the heat. And the truth is, guys, if we were ready to start having that conversation about maybe he is going to, in the end, be considered one of the greatest horses of all time, he should still win that race.
NBC's Laffit Pincay. So, Laffit, how disappointing is it for the sport that he did not?
The bloom's off the rose, guys. Of course it's disappointing. And you get used to him making it look so easy out there, race after race, and the perfect season, the fact that he hasn't lost since his debut in August. Any given horse can lose on any given day, and even though he felt, and I thought he was unbeatable. To me, the fact that, as I told you guys on Friday, the fact that he was there told me he was ready, and these other horses were going to really have to step it up if they were going to compete with American Pharoah. So yeah, it's a little, you lose some of that momentum, and now, you know, Ahmed Zayed is talking about possibly retiring him. Bob Baffert yesterday indicating that he would like to train him up to the Breeders' Cup, have one more race, and he would have a chance to go out on a high note in North America's richest horse race.
What are your feelings? Do you think he runs in the Breeders' Cup?
I do. I think that initially, you know, how many times do athletes, after major sporting events, after disappointing losses, there's a knee-jerk reaction. There's a lot of emotion there, and right away, well, you know what, he lost, we're going to retire him. I think that they'll go back to California, Zayed, Baffert, they'll reassess. If American Pharoah is doing well, he's probably a little bit tired. It's been a long, hard campaign, all the traveling. Now he has a couple of months to prepare for the Breeders' Cup. If he starts coming around again and showing those same signs of that brilliance that made him a Triple Crown winner, we'll see him. We'll see him on Halloween in Keeneland.
Laffit Pincay with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. You saw him on Saturday on NBC covering the Travers. Is there any way to figure out on the amount of money that's lost on American Pharoah from a breeding perspective when he loses a race like this?
I'm fairly certain that that's already set. I know that when the deal was first announced that he would be retired before his 4-year-old season, that he would be sent off to stud at Coolmore Ashford Stud in Lexington, there were incentives, I think, based on how we would perform in the Triple Crown. From a monetary standpoint, I do everything was gravy after that. So no, I don't think as a stallion prospect, you know, finishing a very good second in a Travers is gonna hurt his value.
Laffit, when you look at this scenario, we already kind of wrote the story of he wins at Travers, he goes on, wins the Breeders' Cup, and he's one of the greatest horses, if not the greatest horse of all time. Is there a way that he can go and win this Breeders' Cup and reclaim that argument at least?
He would have to do so in devastating fashion, because he lost the Travers, but he didn't do so in an embarrassing fashion. He didn't finish off the board. And let's give Kenai some credit. He really stepped up and ran a big race. The top three finishers all ran huge races. It would be hard. I'd have to see it first, because I think, to me, he's the best 3-year-old I've ever seen. I think you could still have the conversation that he might be the best 3-year-old or the best racehorse of the modern era if he wins out and wins the Breeders' Cup Classic. All time, I think that he kind of, look, Man of War lost there, Secretariat lost there. We get that. It does happen, but it's hard to have that conversation because we're not going to see him any further. If he had a 4-year-old campaign in front of him, if he had another year of racing, there'd be more room for error. That one loss wouldn't define. And it does. I mean, he's still the Triple Crown winner. But if he's only going to finish out his 3-year-old season and not continue next year, when it comes to legacy and that all-time great conversation, I don't know that there's room for a loss.
Laffit Pincay of NBC, you have been in horse racing your entire life since you could walk. Can you put into words, even though we're reflecting on a disappointment now from over the weekend, being there at Saratoga Racecourse, what it was like, and in your words as a lifetime race fan, what you'll take away from Saturday?
It was disappointing. We're fans, Armen, we're fans first. And I wasn't at Belmont when Smarty Jones lost, but the energy sort of transcended through the television screen. You could tell that the air had been sucked out of the building. I was there when Zenyatta lost by a head in her 20th and final start of her career at Churchill Downs in the Breeders' Cup Classic, retiring 19 for 20. It felt a little bit like that. And 50,000 people sort of wandering about with this look on their face like, gee, my God, what happened? He's not invincible. So I think there was a letdown from that standpoint because everybody showed up they wanted to see the Triple Crown winner at its best. But that's what makes racing great, and that's what makes Saratoga, is these strange things that happen there. And, this stigma of Saratoga wasn't born overnight. As Larry Coleman said, the graveyard of favorites claims another one.
Yeah. Laffit Pincay of NBC. Laffit, had a great time hanging out with you last week. Thank you so much for your time and coming on with us throughout Triple Crown season and Saratoga season as well. It's been a good one, and I'm sure we'll bug you again in the future, my friend.
Anytime. It was a blast, guys.